Hi everyone, welcome back to Beyond Everything.
My name is Yasmin. I was about to say Sarah.
My name is Sarah, and this is episode 2 of season 2. So, what are we going to be talking about today, Yasmin?
So today we're going to be talking about the Jeffrey Dahmer series that's been going on. It's Monster and
The
everything.
monster Jeffrey Dahmer.
And it's quite interesting because there's so much to talk about, like regarding the backlash, the
The
opinions
backlash,
and the people had.
the backlash faced by Netflix, the future of Netflix, where we think it's headed to, and so on. So, if you guys don't know, the show Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's called The Monster Jeffrey Dahmer, and it is on Netflix. And Jeffrey Dahmer is basically like a serial killer, cannibal, pedophile, just everything that's bad. And he murdered 17
people.
murdered and dismembered 17 people over 13 years. And yeah, so what Netflix did was they decided to create a show out of that. And obviously there were already existing documentaries about it and like interviews, like real life interviews, kind of resembling the Ted Bundy tapes.
Yeah.
But Netflix took it a step further and they created a show with actual actors and actresses reenacting what happened in the past. And they really focused on the resemblance part because these people look similar, the apartment looks similar, the set looks similar, the cast looks similar. Like it's actually crazy.
And with Netflix, like the documentaries of like serial killers and that stuff, like it was made as like a documentary, and they like usually show like real. They usually show like real footage of like the court of like what happened and pictures and everything. But this was very like lively, and like looking at it, like it's kind of concerning because when you're watching it, like it disturbs you like mentally because of
100%.
how everything is so real, and it just like it's scary. Honestly, it's very scary.
Yeah.
What were your like thoughts and like process whilst watching
while
it?
watching it, by the way, guys, disclaimer: if you haven't watched this, there might be some spoilers of me like explaining what happened, and also disclaimer: we're going to be talking about some graphic and violent activities, since this show is mostly about that. And yeah, before we get onto explaining that part, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us what you would like to see next. So what I think, honestly, when I was watching it, I got this very like ominous, like eerie vibe, and it was very like real to me. Like I would watch it and I would think, this is Jeffrey Dahmer. Like Evan Peters did a great, I think that's the actor's name. He did a great job reenacting, like on point, just the way the guy speaks, his accent, his body language, just everything from A to Z. Just everything was amazing. But that also raises a question of morals and ethics. And I think that was the first thing I thought of when I watched it. I was like, how do the families of these victims feel? And I was just like, I bet they are not too happy about this.
And it has been seen that Jeffrey Dahmer's dad is considering like to like sue Netflix for what they put out there. And some family members like stated that, oh, that didn't happen. Oh, the story is completely wrong and everything. And it kind of like brought anger because Netflix decided to like romanticize Jeffrey Dahmer.
Exactly. I think that was the main issue.
And it was disgusting. And it did not like you have to understand like it's a real life issue that has happened years ago, and people are still affected since their family members, their friends, people they knew were part of it. And it's disturbing. At the time, like when everything happened, it was honestly disturbing. And for them to like do something about it like 20 years later, 30 years later, like it just doesn't.
I mean, honestly, there were already existing movies and all of this about that specific serial killer. There was Jeffrey Dahmer related stuff. And this one, as much as I feel like it's unethical still, that they didn't even ask for consent or whatever, but I feel like the blame is not to be fully on Netflix. I think there is definitely a blame to be put on the audience as well. When you're watching the show, obviously Netflix kind of manipulates it by putting like maybe an attractive character that seems charming to everyone and all of that. But by doing that, people on TikTok, social media, Instagram, everybody was just kind of fetishizing and romanticizing this character. And it was like, you guys do know that this is not an actual show. It's a real thing that happened in real life. But making it into a show kind of deceives us a bit and makes us feel like it's not real.
Yeah.
And then it's just another Netflix entertainment content purpose.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Media
And
piece.
plus, like on like TikTok, Instagram, I saw that like some content creators were like using the sound and like
Yeah.
kind of like linking it towards Jeffrey Dahmer
Yeah,
and like the dance that he does.
The dance he does, and that one sound, relax. I'm just gonna take some pictures.
Yeah.
Here.
And they're dressing up as him as well.
And obviously, since it's almost Halloween, we purposely wanted to talk about this topic during this time of the month, just to see what is about to happen on Halloween, because obviously we know that definitely people are going to be dressing up as Jeffrey Dahmer for Halloween.
But on eBay, it's banned.
Yeah, you
They
sent me
removed
a
the-
piece of information about this actually on Instagram. We saw that on eBay. They just banned
Like the
Jeffrey
Jeffrey
Dahmer
Dahmer's costume.
costumes.
And I think that's a really great move because it just shows that people shouldn't be romanticizing him. People shouldn't be dressing up as him since he's a real life killer who's disturbed and traumatized many. And it's just not the way, honestly. And I just completely like agree with what eBay did.
100%.
And with Jeffrey Dahmer's dad, with him like considering to like sue Netflix, I think that's a great move because it just demonstrates how Netflix did a really bad thing when it came to like filming it and actually going on with the production of letting out some like
I mean, honestly, this is a very heavily opinionated topic. There's some downsides and upsides to it. And like we all know and love true crime. We all watch true crime. It's like a very fascinating genre, but it's kind of turned into a mode of entertainment more than it is for education. And obviously, Netflix, as a strategy, they've seen that, true crime is doing really great, and they've been putting out lots of true crime. I read that between July 2020 and March 2021, so in a span of less than a year, Netflix released 18 true crime-related shows, and that number is only increasing from there. So, yeah, obviously, and then in this September 2022, they released the 10-part series, Jeffrey Dahmer. And it's been just taking a toll on the world, kind of like everybody watched it. I read that the show was watched for over 196 million hours within the first week.
oh my goodness.
So it was released and everyone just went crazy and started watching it. And obviously curiosity gets the best of us. And I mean, I watched it, you watched it, we all watched it, but how we interpret and perceive the content, I think, is the important aspect. Yeah, you just have to keep in mind that you're watching it for education and not for entertainment, which
It was taken as like an entertainment for like other people. Like it wasn't like a show for education because you can easily watch like short documentaries and know like what happened, like the whole timeline. But people are watching it out of like entertainment because they just like loved the character and loved the acting and
exactly.
the whole series.
And honestly, choosing a character that was already like Evan Peters is a character he acted in American Horror Story. Exactly. And in that show, he was kind of like a romanticized, like creepy, crush, mysterious person. So taking that specific actor and putting him here is obviously gonna raise
Spark
that
some
exactly.
like fandom and everything.
Exactly, 100%. And obviously, I feel like Netflix, when they released Jeffrey Dahmer, I feel like they had the intent of like shedding light onto what happened and also giving the victims a voice. But I feel like that just kind of got lost into the context of, producing and releasing the film. And I also read that Rita Isabel, the sister of Errol Lindsay, which is one of the victims, told Insider, "I was never contacted about the show. I feel like Netflix should have asked if we mind or how we felt about making it. They didn't ask me anything. They just did it." And now the actor of Jeffrey Dahmer is kind of being glorified. So
I
what
agree
is your
with
take on that? What do you think about him
Jeffrey
being glorified?
Dahmer.
Him being glorified, him having fans. We saw in the last episode that he
Yeah.
had some fan mail.
I disagree with it, and I feel as though
was-
like the people who are like glorifying him, romanticizing him, fangirling over him is just wrong in so many levels because it shouldn't be like that. The guy has done so much damage and to an extent that we couldn't never ever ever relate to. So people doing that and people glorifying him is just wrong. And the last episode when I watched it, I was shocked and confused. Like, why is he receiving fan mail? Why are
Yeah.
people like creating merch and what's it called? All those things. Like, it's very
Exactly.
disturbing, especially for the family having to witness that. I was shocked, honestly. That's
You
my
know,
take.
what's it called? Dahmer's actual glasses that he wore in prison went on sale for $150,000. Like people just, I mean, obviously it's kind of like it's crazy for something to be preserved for that long, first of all, and then, but I feel like just selling his items like that, I feel like that money should be going to the victims'
The
families.
victim's family, yeah.
Exactly.
That I don't know what to say about it because like I thought they banned like selling his items.
I'm not sure, but
So
I read
think
this.
I read an article that they banned.
But like obviously they had been selling stuff before that, and then they stopped it.
It's just so wrong. I thought like they
Yeah, the real question here is where do we draw the line between education, truth, and entertainment? So on one hand, Netflix, as I said, gave the victims a spotlight and kind of like just a voice to show what actually happened. But on the other hand, that was kind of exploited, and people started leaning towards the gratification, like
Yeah.
towards Jeffrey Dahmer, and this kind of manipulated narrative, it really puts ethics and morals into question, especially with
Yeah.
Netflix being a big company. But yeah,
that's true. But like I've got a question. What do you think is a possible like outcome for like the future when it comes to true crime documentaries? on
okay.
Netflix?
So Netflix, especially, I feel like the possible and probable, to be honest, in the future of what's going to happen is Netflix is going to start releasing only Netflix related content. So you know how they're removing shows already and all
Yeah.
of that. I feel like you know how they like put movies in general. I feel like now they're going to put things that are only produced by Netflix, and true crime is only going to increase.
It's only
now.
going to increase.
And I
'cause
think
of-
this since this technique of true crime was very popular, like from the results, it was very popular how like they reenacted the show rather than having a documentary with like
it makes it feel more
footage
real.
of court cases and whatever. I feel like this is very popular and it will definitely happen again for other serial killers.
Honestly, like personally, like I've watched like a decent amount of like true crime documentaries and series, and I feel as though like the way that they produced and created the Jeffrey Dahmer monster series was just like, it was just like the best. Like it's like I'm more comfortable watching that
It's-
because
it's-
it's fast and it gets to the point and it's
It's
just
very
easier
real.
to
I mean,
watch.
all ethics and morals aside, looking at the show itself, like just the show, the acting was great. I think the length and the episodes was very good. Because if it was a bit longer, people would have not continued it. Would have been too long. I think the settings, the scenery, the location, literally the apartment, everything was just spot
was
on,
just-
literally spot on. So I think they definitely did. They were successful on that side.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I also wanted to mention one more thing. So Eric Perry is in the Isabel family, and he tweeted, "I'm not telling anyone what to watch. I know true crime media is huge right now, but if you're curious about the victims, my family, the Isabels, are pissed about this show. It's re-traumatizing over and over again, and for what? How many movies, shows, documentaries do we need?" And obviously, this goes back to the statement that I said, where there has been documentaries created before.
Yeah. I don't think it received as many backlash as Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, it definitely didn't because it wasn't a show. It was more of like a documentary.
Yeah.
And like, obviously legally, I think Netflix was allowed legally to produce this movie without the family's consent since this
And that
story.
should not be allowed.
Yeah, but it is legal because the story is public. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows the victims already. Everybody knows the story because there has been several movies about it. All he did was just take that and create a show out of it. So that's why it is legal, and
Yeah.
they didn't really need to ask.
And there's been like a movie with Ted Bundy. It's called like Wicked something whatever.
I didn't watch it.
But like they kind of like did the same thing, but like a little less, more like it wasn't as graphic, and you didn't get
Yeah.
to like witness like the family members who like the
Yeah,
victims
this one was
and everything.
very, very graphic.
It was very graphic, but
graphic.
like the Ted Bundy movie was not. Like they just showed like his whereabouts and like what Ted Bundy was like, what he did, and his family and everything. But it didn't show like the victims. It was just very like hidden, and I don't think it upset like people, like the family members and the victims and everything.
Yeah, definitely. These people, honestly, like even with Jeffrey Dahmer, when we watched the interactions with his father and his family, his parents did have a huge role to play in this.
Yeah.
We're not psychologists or anything like that, but his parents definitely, I think, from my perspective, they neglected him, they abandoned him. He was on his own, and he just, kind of lost it at a
Spiraled.
point. And he didn't talk to anyone about it. He tried to talk to his dad. His dad kind of like blocked it out and pretended it wasn't there. So yeah.
It could have been like avoided like big time, like his actions and what he did, but I don't know. I think he just enjoyed it, and I think it was a fetish
Yeah.
for him, which is just very like odd because
I mean, if it's a like fetish, okay, it is what it is. People have weird things like that, but acting upon it is something else. And I think if his dad were to and his mom didn't turn away from him and listen to him, I think things would have been different. No.
I agree.
But yeah, I wanted to ask you about this. Did you watch the movie Smile that's in cinemas?
No.
I watched it last week. This movie is very popular. Everyone's watching it. I went to the cinema. I was surrounded by like school kids, like high schoolers, kind of teenagers. Everybody was just screaming and shouting at the same time. And it was more like I don't know. The audience was just so funny. It was like a collective audience thing. Everybody's like giving the
Was
same
everyone
reactions.
scared?
Everybody's like talking to each other about it. And I was like, guys, I can't listen to the movie, but it was scary. And I think I never really realized how much graphics and visual design and technology advancements affected movies until this movie. I realized like the graphics, I was like, this looks so real. Like the lady was just literally like cutting her face. And it just looked very real. So I was like, that's crazy. So definitely technology advancements and just, social media content creation and all these new innovations that are coming out. I think definitely like Netflix is going to benefit a lot from that stream in the
Yeah,
future.
I agree.
And you're definitely going to be producing more horror, true crime related.
Because like that's like the most like successful.
That is the most successful right
sector.
now, yeah. I feel like it's a genre that everybody's...
Yeah. Everyone is drawn into, and everyone's curious and find an interest towards it. So
Exactly.
I think that will go great for Netflix, but maybe for next time, maybe they can like at least like contact the family and like
Definitely.
like because it influenced people to romanticize him even more.
Yeah.
Even in the past as well, like when everything happened, he was romanticized, and people were just like, "Wow, like oh my gosh." I think it's because of his looks.
As well.
I think
I
it's
mean,
because
these
of his
people
looks.
always look good and normal. Even Ted Bundy, like he looks like a charming, regular man, and he was married and everything. But
Yeah.
Anyways,
Thank you so much for listening and
yeah,
joining
episode
watching our episode.
2.
So
Let us know what you want to see next episode, and yeah.
that's it.
and thank you. Just
Thank
like
you.
and subscribe and follow us on Instagram. Make sure to do that.
Since we'll be like
yeah.
posting updates and everything. But thank you very much.
Thank you for watching.